Welcome to the I Love Wine and Dogs podcast, created, produced, and hosted by Heidi Huebner, with engineering and production by Timothy StoneDancer Coleman. This show was created to celebrate good wine, amazing pets, and people from around the world who are doing great things in their local communities. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the I Love Wine and Dogs podcast. I'm Timothy StoneDancer Coleman, co-host, here with my sister, the creator, producer, and host of our show, Miss Heidi Huebner. What's up, Heidi?
Hi, everybody. How are you, my brother?
Oh, listen, as always, we're taking it day by day, right? The good, the bad, the in-between, it's all a learning process. And, I got to say, I got nothing to complain about.
Okay, but do you have any new exciting? I feel like I was supposed to be waiting to hear from some good news from you.
Listen, I am always waiting to hear good news from heaven and beyond. Yeah, so I'm still, auditioning. I'm still, doing all those things. But I got to say, one of the coolest things that's been happening are the posts for this show. I am loving all of the feedback and impressions that we're getting. I started posting this on my LinkedIn page, and I have about 2,000 people following me. It's not, tremendous, but so many people are like, oh my God, you guys are in your second year. I didn't know this existed. So I think we're going to start getting a lot more traction for the show. So honestly, that's been my real excitement the last couple of weeks.
Well, listen, I'll take it because that is great news. And, it's just fun, our little process of doing this. I enjoy it every single time we're together. And I'm so excited for our guest today, Julie Fingersh. She's a writer and a freelance journalist, a mom, and an author of the book Stay. It's a story of family love and other traumas. I just finished reading it. These are all my little Post-it notes. This book is spectacular, but I think what is so awesome is I have known Julie since 7th grade. And so without further ado, Julie, hi, and welcome to the show.
I'm just tickled and thrilled to be here. If we're allowed to use that word anymore, it's from our childhood, but it's really, there's just something very beautiful about being here with you, Heidi, and getting to meet Tim too.
So I have to say, this is so cool. And this is one of the reasons why I love social media. I saw a post that Julie was going to be in Santa Monica doing a book signing. And we're friends on Facebook. I don't think we've seen each other since graduation, which is crazy. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm totally going to go. This is so great. And 2 other friends are there, Kimberly Wang and Ellie Klausner, who we all went to school together. And I was like, Julie, I'm coming. And she was like, wait, what? You are? And I'm like, yes.
It was I just loved it. I loved having you there, having my team KC there.
Yeah, it was so great. All of us from high school. And then I got to meet Julie's lovely husband, Dave, and some other friends. We went to dinner after the book signing and the Q&A, which, again, knowing her, I had no idea she was going through what she went through and what she wrote about. So before we delve into all of that, I had asked Julie what wines she likes, and she likes Petite Syrah and New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. I didn't have one to feature today that's one of those specifically, but this is a great wine from Sausalito Canyon in the Central Coast, Rebel Rouser. So Julie, in honor of you.
Thank you.
It's not 100% of what you normally drink, but I'll be cracking this open later.
We'll be right back after these messages. I Love Wine and Dogs podcast has brand new merchandise. Have you ever looked at something and realized you didn't need it until you saw it? ilovewineanddogs.shop, your one-stop shop to support loving pets, good wine, and great people doing awesome things in their communities. Visit ilovewineanddogs.shop and get that new merch.
Wherever you live, go to your local shelter or work with your local rescue group to bring in your new forever loving baby if you're ready. Remember, you got to make sure you're ready for this commitment, but you can foster, you can volunteer. There are so many other ways that you can give back and help your fellow community in the pet world.
Like, share, and subscribe on Facebook and Instagram at I Love Wine and Dogs.
Welcome back to the show.
All right, everybody. So again, our guest today, Julie Fingersh, author, amazing woman. Her book, Stay, you have to get it. You have to read it. I literally couldn't put it down. But Julie, take us back. So we're both from Kansas City. Were you born and raised in Prairie Village, or did you guys move there?
No, I was born and raised in Prairie Village, which, as you know, being from Kansas City, is its own experience once you leave Prairie Village or you were in Mission Hills. But yeah, if you're from Kansas and you leave, you have a whole different perspective on how everyone sees you. But that's another podcast, I think.
And another book, maybe.
And another book, yeah.
Okay, so born and raised, and then where did you go to school before you came to Sunset?
I went to a Jewish day school, the Hebrew Academy, and then I came to Sunset in 7th grade when it was still an all-girls school.
Julie was the kid in school with her yellow legal pad, always asking questions. Julie was also very smart. She was excellent at literature. Who was your mentor at our school? Like, what teacher really stood out to you and probably helped mold you to what you were doing?
100% that would be Lorraine Gordon. She was she came from Loretto. She was a new teacher to our high school. She was very pretty. We were all kind of like gaga over her, the girls and boys who came for, the co-ed classes once in a while. And yeah, she was just, you remember her. She was tough.
Loved her.
So smart. And I think she's probably was my most important, besides my dad, who also really taught me to write. She's probably my most important influence in learning how to write, but also just even seeing myself as a writer, because she was just always, she held that for me. And it was just, when you're a kid, you're like, who am I? What do I do? Am I good at anything? And she kind of helped me see that and go for it and stuff. It was very important.
She was a great teacher. And it's like John Love said was my mentor because like doing
totally.
musicals and everything. And that, was my passion. And I think I kept in touch with Mr. Lovestead. It was great. Like throughout the years. Did you
Yes.
as well?
Yes. In fact, May 20th, I'm going back to Pembroke Hill. It's now called Pembroke Hill, to do an alumni event for the book. And Lorraine is going to interview me, which is just like the most fun thing ever. So I saw her last time I was in Kansas City.
And so, Julie, what, like writing, when you were thinking you were going to be a writer, in what way were you envisioning that as a career?
Well, I think because I was on the newspaper and it was the school paper, and it was really Lorraine who, when we were, if you remember, our school paper merged the year before the school merged. And so we were the first class to do a combined newspaper. So it was like a kind of a competition between the girls and the boys, who was going to be like editors and, who was going to make up the masthead. And I wasn't even going to apply. And I remember Lorraine, like, I guess, looked at all the applications and she like found me and she's like, where's your application? And I was like, I'm not going to get it. Like, I'm not applying for it. Like, because you know how when you're in high school and you're like, there's just the people who are going to get it. And she was like, you need to apply. And so I did, and I got the editor-in-chief position. And I think that it was just such a powerful experience. And I think because of that, I always saw myself as being a journalist, because I also am I am so interested in people and I'm constantly asking questions. I'm always would rather ask people questions than answer them, which is ironic since I wrote a memoir, but that's part of the irony. And so really, I wanted to be like a journalist. And one of my heroes was Anna Quinlan, who she was the New York Times first female columnist, and she wrote about life. And she was, no one did that then, and certainly not a woman. And I just remember I'd wait for her column every week and be like, oh my God, I can't believe she just gets to write about life. And like, that's her job. So that's what I always really wanted ultimately. But then life got in the way.
Okay. Do you think that Carrie Bradshaw's character from Sex and the City I know that was a book, I think, but do you think that idea came from what she was doing?
You mean what Candace Bushnell was doing?
Yeah, writing about life.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you mean like
Did
with
she
Anna
get that
Quinlan, one of,
idea from
oh, yeah,
Anna?
maybe. Yeah, maybe. I know. It's funny because, right, because like before that, who was,
Nobody.
right, nobody, right. She was one of the first people to do that, I think. And then like Dave Barry wrote, and Nora Ephron,
Yeah.
and uh Irma Bombeck, those people.
Yep. I remember.
Yeah, remember those? Yeah, and they
Yeah.
still, all of them are just, those are my favorite writers, because to me that's the most interesting thing.
Listen, I'm creative in a few different ways. Writing, especially when it's more like song lyrics or poetry, that area is more where I am. I haven't sat down to tackle something as huge as a memoir or a book or a novel, like something of that nature. But yeah, writing in that way is good for me. I think everybody has at least one gift, even if you're blessed with multiple other talents. And so, that's something that I do here in New York and in working in the community is just getting people to find what that gift is and to
Yeah,
nurture it out of themselves. And so, my question would be, as a writer, what would you say to a young writer? We find our purpose at different ages, right? Like there are people that didn't.
that's a very profound statement. You're right.
Right. So, I mean, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what age you are. To a person who is fresh to writing, let me say that. What is like the core piece of advice that you would give to them as they begin to formulate that initial idea?
I think my core piece of advice is to let yourself be in love with writing and do everything you can to protect that feeling, because I think that there is, once you get it in your mind that you have to publish or you have to make a living doing it or it has to be a certain thing or have a certain outcome, it just, it's like a creativity killer in a sense. And I think that, I mean, of course, our advice usually is the things that like we never followed. I think for me, it just right off the bat was like, and it's also just my nature was just very much like it has to be great all the time. And, which makes it really not very fun. So to me, like the people I envy most as writers are the people who are still delighting in the actual process of it. And if you're lucky enough to do it not as a living, that's probably the best way to do it, because I think that if you're writing to make a living and pay your bills, I think there's a conflict between like commerce and creativity. It's really hard to have both things happen. So I don't know if you feel that way about songwriting or
I
if
mean,
it if
that's
it
really powerful. I think what you just said applies to every creative craft, right?
yeah,
And
probably
what's,
right.
yeah, I mean, I think for me with songwriting, I got lucky in my case because, it could be a napkin, it could be a paper towel, it could be the back of a grocery bag, it could be, you know what I'm saying? Like if inspiration hits me, I'm just
I
like
love
jotting it
that.
down. And so I have a gigantic binder where like napkins are inside of a piece of plastic and whatever,
Seriously?
and I keep all those original things.
I love
So
that.
as music comes across the table and someone needs like melodies or lyrics or whatever, I can find the song that I wrote, and even if it might just be lyrics, it's still a song to me. That fits the vibe of what I'm hearing in the music that they've created. So that's what keeps it fun for me, is that I'm
That's so
always
cool.
vibing off of like where is somebody coming from or what is the story that we're telling. And that's what keeps it in truth. And so I'm able to just tell the truth in small little portions a million different times.
I love that. And I think songwriting is got to be, that's just like such an elusive art to me. And I wish I understood how to do it. I just think that's a whole different thing, you know?
It's funny because that's how I feel about writing a book, and that's exactly how I feel about choreographing something.
I
It's
was
like
going to
it seems
say,
too,
right? Well, I
yeah.
guess that's the point is we all have, because Heidi, like if someone told me I had to make up a dance, that would be a sad thing for whoever had to watch. So,
And Heidi has, I mean, like her job was always so crazy as like our dance captain and co-choreographer, like because
oh
she had to keep all the chickens moving together. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
God, I wish I could have seen that.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, listen, we have another commercial, so stay tuned. We'll be back with more from our guest, Julie Fingersh.
We'll be right back after these messages. I love wineanddogs.shop, your one-stop shop to support loving pets, good wine, and great people doing awesome things in their communities. From school classrooms to living rooms across New York City, our mission is to amplify untold stories and create space for healing, leadership, and transformation, one voice at a time. Welcome to The Art of Storytelling, a media education initiative that empowers individuals to find their voice, craft their narrative, and share their truth through the power of podcasting and digital storytelling. Reach out to us today at Coleman Global. Welcome back to the show.
We just have to delve into the book. And again, it's called Stay. And it's amazing. And I have questions, but Julie, this came about because share.
My background was in journalism. Never expected to ever. I mean, if you had said, what is the least likely thing you would ever write? It would for sure be, well, maybe right behind like a textbook about math or history, it would be a memoir. I don't really like talking about myself. And I'm also a very private person. I was raised in a family where we just really held privacy as a very sacred value. But it came about because I think I learned, it took many decades to realize that for me, and I speak for myself and not necessarily my parents and my older brother, keeping our privacy kind of airtight in terms of what happened in our family ended up being a really damaging thing for me. And it came about really initially weirdly because our daughter was in high school and we have two children. My husband and I have two children, and she was a senior in high school, and our son was a couple years behind her. And I was looking at the empty nest in front of me, and I was thinking I had given up my career 30 years before in writing. I never really understood why. I think at the time, it was like, oh, I'll just go back after I have kids, and it'll be better for our family if I was the primary caretaker, since as a writer you earn like 10 cents. So it was like childcare would have been much more expensive than what I could earn. And then I never did go back. And as I looked at the empty nest, it was and juxtaposed with the fact that our daughter was, as a senior in high school, reminded me so much of myself. I was so ambitious. I was just so gung-ho to like go out in the world and become a great writer and an important writer. And then my brother got kind of withdrew into a depression at the time we thought was just kind of a phase. And our family my brother's life started to unravel. And as the middle child, as the only girl, I think it was just an instinct and we were very close, to be there for him. And I think that became kind of like my main job in my own mind. And so when our daughter was a senior in high school, I never connected those things, but I had this like very terrible feeling of envy for our daughter, who I adore. And as a parent, like that's just, you just you don't feel jealous of your kids, just you don't. And it was like it kind of came up on me, and I knew that it was kind of a canary in the coal mine for something else, and I really at the time didn't understand it. So it came about because I decided that I had to get back to writing. I had to try to get back to writing as a way to sort of like figure out what my next chapter was going to be. And then life kind of happened. And if you read the book, then you find out that, like, just as I started kind of getting started again with going back to journalism, our daughter got sick. And it started to connect in my kind of psyche with that feeling of helplessness when someone you love is sick, and how difficult it is to watch them struggle, to not think you're the one who's going to like be the one to save them. And so I kept writing my way through it. And then it wasn't for really a couple years into it that I really decided to try to make it into a book that would be for other people, because I was always clear, like, it's not about me, it's not about my family, it's about just the universal questions of motherhood and self and identity and family loyalty and, mental health and chronic medical illness and all that stuff, and how it changes and shapes us within families, and then as you go out into your own life and try to be a person apart from it.
First thing, family secrets and secrets in general are horrible. And we've all been there. You and I briefly talked, and I don't know if things have changed because of social media where people maybe air too much.
For us, it wasn't really like, oh, it's a secret. It was like, my brother wasn't doing well. Why would we air our dirty laundry? Why would we expose him? And then when he got better, everyone would know where he'd been. In retrospect, it creates so much baggage and negativity to feel like you have to hide, and you end up kind of living a double life on some level, or I did. I think one of the things I've learned writing this book and kind of processing all of it is that you don't necessarily realize like how much of it's like I write about this thing called a blueprint. You don't really realize how much of a blueprint or an imprint your past makes on your future and how that shapes you. I mean, I know that for me, it just ended up being like it was I never connected those really until much later in life.
Another interesting thing, I remember one time my mom said to me, she goes, I really wanted to be a costume designer, but that didn't happen when I was touring during shows. And I was like, but just go be one. Like, come on, you can just go be one. And like, when I think about that, it makes me sad because she lived, I know, vicariously through me doing my shows and my life.
She did.
And was proud of me, but I am sure there was a jealousy and a sadness where,
yeah.
And that makes me sad. So of course I'm the opposite. I'm like FOMO. I'm like Stephen will say, you don't have to do everything. And I'm like, yes, I do. I'm not going to, I take it to the full extent of
right.
saying yes to everything.
It's funny though, because I think that those feelings, those sort of forbidden feelings, I mean, your mom lived at a time where there wasn't a lot of opportunity or example for that. But It's just like, like your soul kind of sends signals up, and they come through as if it's depression or paralysis or anxiety or whatever, jealousy or whatever it is. And it's like, they're just signs. But the question is, are you going to pay attention to them? And I think that once you start, and what I found in writing this book is, it was just like it was eerie that once I committed to doing that work, it just everything unfolded and like the knowledge, the revelations of it, like what connected with what. And then it just sort of like illuminated a path forward that I don't know if I would have seen had I not written.
Then let's talk about signs, the dragonfly.
Yeah.
So Tim, this will get your goosebumps going. So Julie, talk about the symbol of the dragonfly and Danny.
When Danny died, and on the day of his funeral, were like inexplicably, there were like dragonflies that were like on our windows. They were like draped on our windows, which was just like such a weird thing. And in the haze of the morning and the shock and because it was a very sudden and horrible death. It was just something that it was like odd, but I wasn't really paying much attention to. But my mom immediately sees that on that as a sign from Danny. And at the time, I was kind of like, Mom, I'm so happy that you can feel that way. And and, and over time, though, what I found was that every so often when I was thinking about him, a dragonfly would come up. And so throughout the book, I just talk about that. Like, and it got to be, it came to a point where it was like, you just couldn't explain it away because it was like, for instance, there was one time when our daughter had to go when she has ulcerative colitis, which is a chronic bowel disease, which is not a pretty disease. It's something that people don't talk about. It's another secret in many families. And I know that also because I can't tell you like how many people have written to me about their kids who have it, who don't talk about it, who feel very isolated. And anyway, she had to have surgery for it. And my husband, who's a doctor who really doesn't believe in science and really doesn't believe in like anything that hasn't had like 10,000 different experiments and data and all that, called me from the hospital and said he had taken Jessie up to sign in for her surgery. And they were up on the 16th floor. And this was in San Francisco in a really industrial part of the city that was under huge construction. Certainly dragonflies were not around there. And he said that as they were signing in, he kept hearing this like click, click, click. And he looked behind the person registering him, the nurse, and there was a dragonfly and it was just like trying to get in. And then 2 hours later, when I came to meet them, because I had to deal with something with my son, when I ran into the hospital, a dragonfly like swooped down like literally in front of my face as I was running into the hospital. And that's just still, if I were you and I didn't believe in signs, I'd still be like, okay, good for you that you believe this. But over time, it just became, kind of it's hard to explain away. And I think the main part of it is that it just made me realize that there's so much that we tend to only believe what we see, and there's so much that we'll never see that is the truth and that informs our life. And when you open yourself up to that, then you're open to a different way of, kind of being. I think for me, it's a sign. The dragonfly is a sign, and this is the book cover. And I love it so much. I love this book cover so much. It's just a sign of the wonder and the things that we don't know and that we can't see.
We'll be right back after these messages. ilovewineanddogs.shop, your one-stop shop to support loving pets, good wine, and great people doing awesome things in their communities. Welcome back to the show.
One of my early writing partners, before I knew I was writing a book, we were on our way to this writing retreat, and she had committed to writing a book, and I was just sort of along for the ride. And she was like, I didn't really know her well, and she said, Julie, I had a dream about your book cover. And I was like, don't be talking about a book cover. Like I have not written for 30 years. I am not writing a book. Like, I'm coming with you. I really don't have faith that I could do it. So, and she was like, no, it was just clear as day. It was a white cover and a blue dragonfly. And I see it. And I was like, okay, but let's just not talk about it. And we arrived at the hotel to check in, and behind the receptionist was a painting of a dragonfly that looked just like this behind her desk. And it was just like, we both were like, okay, this is just too weird, because it was literally like what she described. And so I was lucky enough when the book was, in production, that my editor let me take the lead on the creative work behind it. And
I so believe in signs, and I
do
believe
you?
100%. Danny is always going to be with you, and the dragonfly is always going to signify to remember him, because he's here. He is watching over you and your family, but I think especially you. 100%. I believe that. I also think, you talk about
I love that.
the committee, and like that damn committee. We all have different sets of committees, but it's like, Julie, you were supposed to go through every single thing in your life and your family and your daughter to be able to write this book because it helps people.
Thank you.
So this is something I'm going to read, I think. This is on page 118. And you wonder why certain things stick out to people. Okay, I don't have kids. I have two great stepkids, but I did not have kids of my own. I got married late in life because I wanted to pursue other things selfishly.
That's
So
not selfish, by the way. That's just you were living your life.
I was living my life.
If you were a
Amen.
man, you would never say it was selfish, by the way.
I was living my life because that's what I wanted to do and supposed to do. Okay, so this is Jesse says to you, Mom, I don't really want to FaceTime or talk every day. I need time for things to build up so that I have stuff to tell you. I love when you said you were lucky to be able to stay home and be a mom and not have to work a job. And your kids needed you and your brother. You were not supposed to do what you were doing now. You were supposed to do all of those things. Now is your time to live and do. But her saying that, because of course you're worried about her, of course, everything that she went through. But I love that. And you guys learning to listen to what she's saying. Let me build up some stories to tell you.
Oh, that's so, oh, okay. So you're saying you're relating that to me that I needed to build up stories.
Yeah, you needed a chance to like
Cool. That's
live
such
your
a,
life and be able to have all of these experiences that a well-rounded human being has when they actually do what you said and go through the process of that
Mhm.
meditation and of that release and of accepting like what has happened in the world, and then you're able to share it back out with other people, to Heidi's point, and help other people.
I love that. Well, thank you. I love that. I love that view.
Yeah, I mean, because it's both her saying, Mom, give me space so I can have something new to, share things,
Tell
but
you.
it's also, you need to build up time to be able to
That's right.
share things, right? Not
Yeah.
always being the
Yeah.
caregiver.
No, it's true. I mean, I will say like you can't, I think that's the gift of age. Like I could never have written a book like this when I was young, no matter what I went. I'm not talking about obviously the story, but just even, so many people say they relate to it and that, there's things that it helps them understand and learn and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that just comes from experience, like what did I know, when I was carrying on around my legal pad trying to like, figure it all out. Like it was going to take decades to figure it out.
Right.
So I think that's true. Yeah. For all of us.
And then the other story I liked was the lady on the plane.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So share with Tim, because again, this is just
Sweet.
acts of kindness that people do. So share what you were on the
Yeah.
plane and what happened.
Okay. First of all, I'm just so touched that no one's ever even mentioned that part of the book. So my brother had died, and it was very sudden, like I said, and I the next morning got on a plane to fly home, and I was just kind of in shock, and because it was something that we had just envisioned and had nightmares about for many, many years that could happen. And I got on the plane and I don't know what happened, but I just like, I started to, they said that they were taking off for Kansas City. And I think it just like hit me that like, there I was in the moment that I had imagined so many times. I was on a plane to my brother's funeral. And I just like, it hit me. And I could not stop crying. I was like sobbing. And I guess I was like 20, I was 29. And the woman that was sitting next to me, and I was like, I mean, really sobbing. And I was sitting in the window seat and I just was trying to like keep it to myself because it was like loud and snotty and this woman just leans over to me and she was like, "Did you lose someone?" Which, of course, made me cry even harder. And I just cried for like 2.5 hours. And she just like, we didn't talk. And she just like held my hand and held me. And it was just like the kindest, and she said, "Did you listen?" I said, "Yeah, my little brother." And she didn't, she didn't like try to talk it out, whatever. She just held my hand and she was just with me, like that didn't do anything, but just she was just with me. And I got off the plane and I hugged her and I was in such a daze. I never got her name. And I wish I did because it was just one of the kindest things that has ever happened to me. Because, when in life, like I talk about later, this thing called project grief, like when people are grieving, like we all grieve, but like yet nobody really knows how to deal with it. And nobody really, even if you love somebody and know someone, you still don't know what to say. And you still don't know how to comfort them. And that was just like this moment of grace where a total stranger was just so with me in exactly the way I needed to be. And it has never, it's just probably the kindest thing that's anyone's ever done for me. And I wish I could know who she was so I could send her this book, but maybe she'll read People magazine and find it. I just always, when people ask me, I just always say, don't not because you're uncomfortable or because you think you don't want to upset them. Like they're already upset. And one of the most upsetting things, especially in a situation where it's involving illness or suicide or anything that's like has a lot of stigma around it, is it means that much more to people to just even ask, like when people say like, tell me about Danny, like tell me, or people who come to me like, oh, I remember him, you know I remember sharing stories about him. That is like such a gift to the bereaved. I mean, don't you guys find that? I mean, if
Yes, I do.
Mm, totally agreed.
I do. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I'm just going to walk with you. I'm just going to walk with you. I like that.
isn't that great?
Julie, what's Jesse doing now?
Is a second year law student at Emory, and she's one of probably like 9 people in her class who's going to be dedicating her life to, instead of corporate law and making the big bucks, she wants to do what's called prosecutorial reform, which is reforming the justice system to be more to fair, especially to the Black community. And it's what they call restorative justice, where instead of incarcerating you teach and you rehabilitate and you restore them and sort of compensate for all they've not been given, that most, like many of the rest of us, have had without you know thinking twice about it. So that's what she's doing. She's such a good person and she's such a strong person, and she's I find that whole generation, all of her friends too, they're basically like, guys, you totally wrecked the world. So now we have to fix it. So
Totally.
unlike us, we were like, did we hear about the world? Like, did we know any? I mean, I was not reading the papers at that. I was clueless about politics. That whole generation is just, they know everything and they're on a mission to like fix it. Thank God.
I mean,
God
that's the
help them.
difference with digital natives, right?
It's true.
They get information much more quickly. They know a full day's worth of whatever's going on by 15 minutes, after 8 a.m.
Yeah,
and the rest of us are still piling and picking through it, throughout
totally.
the whole day. You know what I'm saying? So I think, first of all, just congratulations. I mean, like, obviously, the evidence of great parenting is in their children. And, somewhere along the way, I think she saw what you and your husband stood for internally, because
Thank
to
you,
get
Tim.
into that kind of work,
Hmm.
my father, when he retired from the military, started a nonprofit. His focus was
Wow.
getting youth off of drugs, getting
Wow.
families rehabilitated together and
Wow.
reconnected together. So I grew up watching that kind of work, not from the legal side, but just from the on the ground
That's
grassroots kind of side of it.
amazing.
And so, anyone who has that kind of heart and soul and fire definitely deserves all of our prayers, all of our support, all
Yeah.
of our appreciation, because someone's got to do it.
Yeah, that's so That's amazing. And also your mom being a pastor. I mean, what holy people and
I mean,
what
listen,
holy work.
I always say I grew up in a master class of service.
Wow.
I didn't know that. I was just a kid watching
Right.
videos on TV. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't know that it was a master
Right.
class of service until I got out in the world. And then it's like, okay, wait a minute. I gotta adjust my focus. Like my real happiness isn't all of these things over here. It's using all of those things to amplify where
Yeah.
my real passions are, which is what my family was doing, which is what I grew up watching. Right. And
That's
so
amazing.
I work in the community all day, every day. It's been 25 years of the hard service, but it's not something I take credit for because I saw it from my parents and it was something that was natural to me. So I give
That's
them the credit
amazing.
for it because that's where it came from. But I think that's also a lot of, maybe it's not so drastic for everybody, but that is in all of us. That's another thing that brought Heidi and I together was community. That's another thing
Mhm.
that brought the two of
I
you
love
together
that.
was that
I love
community.
that. That's just That's really amazing. And hats off to your parents. Cause I have to say, like, we had a social service club in high school, and that was kind of the only that not many of us were on. It was it was so siloed, and it sounds like you really grew up in a
Yeah.
family where that was really front and center.
Right.
I think for us, a lot of it came from our faith in Judaism. It's
Yeah.
just the core part of Judaism is repairing the world and loving kindness and loving thy neighbor. So I think that Jessie grew up in a really privileged world, and she looked around and was like, this is doesn't um why doesn't everyone else have more of this?
That's great. And congratulations, Mom. You got to be so
Thank you.
proud. Dope. That's dope.
I am.
And I have to ask about Sam because I feel like with
Aw,
everything that you guys have gone through,
yeah.
and he's,
That's
in
so
the
sweet of you.
background, I'm here for you, Mom. I'm okay, Mom. I'm okay, Dad. I love you, Jesse. Like, how hard for him?
Yeah,
He's
you're
healthy, and his sister is going through this, and that guilt of why her, and not, that he's wishing that upon himself, but how is he doing and what is he doing? And what the book?
okay. First of all, it so touches my heart that you ask about him. It shows your sensitivity and your perceptiveness. It really does. Like, there are the people who are like, well, what about Sam? And, I mean, it was pretty crazy, even as I was writing the book, that I had to remind myself as we were going through it with our daughter that, like, he's in the position I was in. He's the sibling with the sick sibling. He's the one who has to be okay. He's and the cost of that, of making yourself small and healthy and fine and don't worry about me. And like my whole life was like that until it wasn't. And he is so sweet and he's so sensitive, and he actually reminds me a lot of Danny in those ways. He's really smart, very sensitive and perceptive, but he's doing really well. I mean, I think it definitely shaped him. It was really hard for him to watch. I think it's especially hard when it's an older sibling who always was. She was such a boss, and she still is a boss. She's very bossy, but it was just to see her in such a compromised, frail, really state. And it was, he had always been the one who was like kind of hyper and kind of like, oh, we had to like watch him and his homework and settle down and whatever. And all of a sudden we were just like, okay, just have a good time in high school. We'll see you when it's over because we got to deal with this. And he did, and he really stepped up. But he's good. He's good. And what did he think about the book? He hasn't read it, and I don't think he will. And I actually would rather he didn't,
Hmm.
because at least until he's much older, because I just, again, because he is so sensitive, and it's not about secrets, but it's just about, it's a tough book. And I mean, it's one of the things I'm happiest about is that people talk about the laugh out loud and how funny it is and that stuff, but there is the really tough stuff. And I think he's like trusting his inner wisdom that he's not ready to like know those know the whole thing until he's ready. And I don't think he is really ready yet. So, but he's very proud, and it's very sweet how proud he is. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, because he lived it. He wasn't there all the time living it, but I think that's a very healthy and mature choice.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you for sharing that, because, and people are
So,
afraid to talk about things. So how many
yeah.
people this is going to help, like we said at the beginning of the show. So the other through line, the healing with dogs. So talk about from growing up, having pets, and
Yeah.
love the dogs, love them.
Yeah. I think that it's so funny because it's like, I'm sure this is true for every book, that it's like, it really says so much about the person, which parts that resonate for them. And one like really funny thing that happened was that the cantor from our temple read the book, and he's a cantor, he's like a holy man, but he texted me and he was like, you know I was all right until the dog had to die. I mean, did you have to throw that in right at the end? And I just thought that was just so funny, because it wasn't about my brother, it wasn't about me, it wasn't about like the layers of meaning. It was about the dog. And of course it's because he is an older dog and he's like dreading that day. So yeah, we've always had dogs. I don't know if you remember our dogs. We always had Great Danes, huge dogs.
Yeah.
And also Brittany's, which are hunting dogs and like kind of medium-sized dogs. And, they just were like our joy and our solace. And, it's just like your anchor in the storm when you come home from school and life is terrible, but your dog loves you and all that. And I think yeah, I think it was I really wanted to make our dogs kind of characters in the story, which I did, because they really are characters in our lives. And we have these really private languages with them. Each of us has our own relationship. They heal different parts of us. We relate to them differently. And, for this story, first we had Scotch, who I describe as like, he's sort of like our emotionally distant Brittany. He's like that bad boyfriend that you're like addicted to because he's mean to you, but you love him. He's so beautiful, but he's mean. He ignores you. That's Scotch. And he just basically would like look it off into the middle distance and, walk away and struggle away from us. And it didn't matter because it made us love him more. And then when Jessie got really sick and things were very, she was facing a very tough summer of surgeries, we just decided like, we got to get another dog. We need something new and joyous in this house. And so we got Scarlett, who was just, I mean, she literally, I feel like it's magical what she did to our family. It was like it was such a dark summer in so many ways, didn't know how it was going to end. And she just brought so much laughter and love and light, and still does.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just know that, they only have a lifespan. But then what's amazing is you find love in your heart for the next one. And now the Scotch did die, and it was devastating. I still miss him like crazy, but we have Luca, who I think I showed you a picture of. And he's just like the funniest, goofiest, most not like our other dog. He's just like the neediest. He's a wreck. Like he's just like where Scotch was just like Richard Gere. Luca is gorgeous, beautiful dog, but he's just a wreck.
So you got the needy. I love it.
Yeah.
I love what you said, which is so true. Like our languages that we have with our dogs. Like I lost Chance and Chubbs this last year. Dogs.
I'm so sorry.
I was like, my heart still, I'm like, I would just look at Chance and I would go, and he knew that was like, we're leaving to go to work. I would just, and in the morning he'd wait, where's the look?
We'll be right back after these messages.
There are only a select few relationships that can ever come close to that of grandmother and her grandchildren. Such is the case with Journey and her grandmother. Journey and her granny love each other dearly. Journey looks up to her grandmother in every aspect of her life, a love reciprocated with her grandmother's every action. If it is something as little as a new crayon box, Granny always is excited for her little Journey, as she means the world to her. This book is about such relationships, pure and delicate as one that's with Journey. Grab your copies today to find out about the sweet and genuine love between a granddaughter and her grandmother in Gillian Bell's new book, Are You Aware?
Welcome back to the show.
This is my favorite. Well, I have so many favorite parts, but this one, and I don't know why this wants to make me cry, and I probably will. With Julie's quest, what is the meaning of life?
Why does it make you cry?
Because I love Fillmore, and he had it right. To live, baby, just to really live.
Yeah.
That's for me when I read that, and every time I read that, and I'm like, he is right. For me, that is my, yes, just live, really live.
Well, you're doing it, Heidi.
I am. Thank you. I feel
You're
like
doing
he's
it, and
somewhere, I'm telling you, I feel like he is somewhere for whatever reason, because that resonated with me. Girl, I'm like literally every day I look at that and I say that, I'm like, thank you, Fillmore. You're right.
oh my God, I love that so much.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, no, he did. And to think like it was just so funny because as I wrote, like when I would ask him, Tim, he was like, I would ask all these people, so what do you think? How do you, what's the point of it? And how do you do it? And he would just be like, it's just to live, baby. And I'd be like, that can't be it.
do you have an answer for yourself, or is this going to be your quest forever? And then I want to know what your thought is.
Yeah. Tim, you go first.
Oh,
Her thing
don't
was,
even.
what is the meaning of life? That's Julie's quest.
The meaning of life. I mean, honestly, enjoying every day by being kind to other people and giving more than you take.
That is a beautiful quest.
And I don't think it's a one thing, right? Like,
No, it's not a one thing.
It's
Because it's
many
everybody's
things.
individual one thing.
But that to me, just live. Like every day isn't going to be a great day.
No, I agree. Like I love like Rabbi Lizak's thing of if you want to get close to life, get close to death. To really understand that it is, and then it's going to be over. And so what really matters? Is it really the, $1,000 sneakers or the, being the most popular kid in the class, or is it really? And which is also kind of liberating, because it enables you to just let go of all this BS that is really easy to get caught up in. So I guess the only thing is I just so appreciate the opportunity to just get it out there. And I hope people take a look at the book and share it with people who are struggling in any of those ways, or who just want like the story. With books, they tell you that you have to like have a log line and it has to be this like 2-sentence summary. And like my book isn't that. I said it when you were in that room in LA, like it's not, it's about everything. It's about life. And I guess this is I don't want to sound like grandiose, but to whatever extent it can help, this book is like it's the sum of everything I've learned about going through a lot of those, like walking a lot of those roads in all of those roles as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, as a sister, as a daughter, as a daughter-in-law, all as a friend, all of it. So I just appreciate the opportunity to get the word out. It's so inspiring to me, and it's so amazing that you've taken like a tough start in a lot of ways and turned it into just something so beautiful and so for the rest of the world.
Thank you. I love doing this podcast because, like I said, we wanted to talk about great people doing good things and people who, we love dogs, we love wine, but just bringing to, there are so many people doing great things. And I feel super blessed with so many awesome people in my life. I can't wait to see Ellie and Kimberly when after April, when things settle down, when I have time.
Good.
I really cannot wait to get together with them.
That's so
They're
great.
so close. I know. I just love this whole reconnection. And that's because of you. If you weren't, that wouldn't have
I love
happened
that.
if you weren't in town with your book. So nothing
love that.
by accident. Nothing happened by accident. And
No,
even
for
Tim,
sure.
I love doing this with him. Like this brings so much joy to me when we do this.
And
And
to me as well.
you know,
So
I'm
just
sure people
boom.
are like, you guys are a broken record, but we mean it when we say it. It was an
I love it.
honor
I
to have
love
you
it.
in, Julie, and I'm proud of you and I love you.
Thank you.
If you're going to be in this neck of the woods, you have to let me know
Oh
for
my
sure.
gosh. Now I have just another reason to come
Yeah.
back because it's such a gift to reconnect with the people you grew up with and to see where you all are and to just be able to like see just how you've all changed and how much more you have in common than maybe you used to have or
Yeah.
ever thought you or ever knew you had. It's
100%.
amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Tim, and I just loved meeting you.
I loved meeting you as well. I can't wait to read your book because now I
Yeah.
have to. These stories are rich, and what you've shared has been amazing, so
Thank you.
poignant. I can't wait for you to hear back. Sometimes we say things because it's just organic and this is what's inside of us. But then when you hear it back, it re-impacts you. And I think you've said some things that are heavy but universal simultaneously.
Thank
So
you.
pleasure to meet you. And folks, thanks so much for joining us for this episode of the I Love Wine and Dogs podcast. It's on Spotify. You can get us on Facebook. You can get to us on Instagram, all the socials. Everything's out there for you to consume. But don't just listen. Please like and share. We want other people to find great love of wine, of animals, specifically dogs for us, but of any kind of animal, to also share, like Heidi said, good people who are doing great things in our society for one another. We'll see you all soon.
take care. Bye, everybody.
I Love Wine and Dogs is now streaming for millions of fans on YouTube. Join the tribe.